Hey everyone. So I just wanted to talk yet again about releasing through emotions, feeling your emotions, going into the heart, and just talk about a recent experience I've had, and just it's just always a great reminder, just at least for myself. So I just wanted to share it. Plus, I am starting. This is the first day of an 11-day fast that I'm doing, just November 1st through November 11th. It seems to be a thing for me that I'm going to do every year, but we'll see how that goes. I'll go into more detail. I think I'm going to make a daily recording, just kind of summarizing the day, how I felt, how much, where my blood sugars were at and how much insulin I took. And then at the end of it all, I'll just combine them all and post it as one video. But I'll share more details in that for once I post that. But for now, so releasing through emotion. I'm just want to say I am so unbelievably grateful for the fact that I have this physical evidence that I can see, and it coincides exactly with how I handle my emotions and how I'm facing them. I've and what I'm talking about is the mucus release that I've been experiencing now for the past pretty much 2 years. I mean, by the end of this fast, it'll be almost exactly 2 years since this started. And I've said before where there's times where, there was a low point earlier this year for me where I just got really distracted, not distracted, I just did not feel good at all with things, and I resorted to kind of habits, distractions, and I did not necessarily face my fears at that point, and I was clenching on to everything. And during that time, it was at least a week. It lasted maybe a little longer, where the mucus just completely stopped during that time. And once I finally came back into it and came back to kind of finding some peace through feeling the emotions, dealing with them, then the mucus started right back up again, and I started to release it. So that's just one example. But I did just have a Kundalini session last week, about a week ago, and I always experience this, whether it's a Kundalini specifically, or just a Reiki session, even just doing it on myself, performing Reiki on myself. I always see the result through a release of this mucus. So I'm so grateful to have that as kind of a reminder, and just to show me the evidence of how this stuff works and how impactful it really is. So this Kundalini session, I've had a bunch this year, and they're great. It's the ones I do are kind of a group session. This past one had anywhere between 10 to 15 people, and there's a facilitator, and you're lying on your back, and if you want to look it up, you can see how those go. And I've done a bunch this year, and like I've said, I usually notice more mucus coming out afterwards, but this past one, it was really different. It was different because even at the start of it, like I for some reason, like I've talked about my social anxiety, and it can come up just out of the blue, like unexpectedly, like and what I guess not unexpectedly, like if there's any social situation where I know I'm gonna have to talk, I'll get nervous, but sometimes it's just more intense than others. And I don't know, this past session there were more people on the call, so maybe that kind of triggered it a little bit to get me really nervous. And you have to talk and introduce yourself, and say what you're doing, basically. And so I got really, really nervous talking initially, and just introducing myself, more so than any time recently. And it was it my voice gets shaky, and I just then I get embarrassed, and I sound like an idiot, or I feel like I sound like an idiot, and I don't really know if I'm talking too clearly. And it really bothered me that came up, and I was just feeling not good about myself at the start of this session. That said, once I finally got through, just kind of telling my short story of what I'm trying to do, everybody on the call, like it's so wonderful to be part of these groups and with these people because they're just wonderful people. They we're all going through our own thing. Everyone's really understanding, so it's always a really welcoming group if you can find one. So, but anyways, I was still not feeling too great at the beginning of the session, and when we started the session, we lie down, and I immediately got this just the frustration was still there within me because logically I don't know how to fix it. Like my brain can't figure it out because I don't know if I've explained this before. Everybody's social anxiety who has it is different. Like if I hear other people talk about how their social anxiety is, it doesn't match what mine is. It just doesn't. I've heard one person explain it on YouTube actually that matched exactly how mine is, and mine is like head's gone basically. It's not there. Like when I get anxious in front of people, there's no thoughts to even go to. I can't say anything because there's nothing to get. I feel like my head is not even there. But at the same time, I'm in my head thinking, "Oh, what are people thinking of me?" So it's a weird thing. It's just hard to be able to talk when there's nothing to pull from. And so logically, I have no idea how to get past that. I like it's not like I've gone through my whole life not ever having practice at this. But the same thing comes up every single time where I have nothing to pull from. I can't say anything. I can't think of anything to say, and it's just that over and over and over again for me. So I was really frustrated at the start of this session, and that turned into just feeling the frustration and really having compassion for myself. And that's all it was. I didn't really have to think it through, just feel it. And I was extremely compassionate to myself. And it led to me basically just turning over to one side and really just kind of starting off the session basically crying a little bit. And once I did that, I rolled back onto my back and just laid there. And out of all the Kundalini sessions I've had so far, I am very hesitant to do any sort of movement or dancing. It's just like I have that inability to do that freely. So all the sessions so far have just been I've had movement happen, just kind of random, more like kind of jerky type motions, but never dancing. I just never feel comfortable. My head gets in the way and says, "No, don't do it." And so I've never had that experience to actually like have this free flowing dance. And at the start of the session, for having that compassion for my fears, basically, that just resulted in me being able to approach my fear, to face the fear. So even though no one's looking at me, no, except for the facilitator, possibly. I mean, she's going to be looking at everybody, and she's likely one of the least judgmental people out there as far as seeing people move during these sessions. So, but it doesn't matter if one person or a million people are watching me. I just get this fear of not wanting to do it and not being able to do it freely. But like I said, feeling that compassion for myself, specifically for my fear, opened me up in that session to be able to at least face that fear a little bit more. And so I was able to actually move around and start dancing a little bit, as much as you can dance lying on your back. And I still had the fear, but it just gave me that ability to face it and just kind of work through it. And as I slowly started to do it, I'm telling you, and this might sound so small to most people who don't have this issue, but I seriously felt like I've never danced before in my life, after what I experienced during this session. Because anytime, like, sure, I've gone to dances, but I'm not never like free flowing. I always have this fear that people were looking at me, and I can't really like get into the groove, I guess you would say. This is the first time ever in my life where, as I started moving, it took maybe 5 minutes into it, but where that fear completely dissipated. And it's almost like it's not that I didn't care what I looked like. It's almost like I was beyond that, where that question didn't even exist. And I've never experienced that before in my life. And like I said, this might sound very small to a lot of people, but it was huge for me. It's something that's I've never experienced before in my life, and it was a really powerful session for me. And again, everybody has their own fears that they have to address, and so my fear might sound completely ridiculous to other people, but it is what it is, and that this is what I have to deal with and what I have to work through. And that session was so powerful. And so the reason I'm bringing it up is because like I said before, I'm so grateful to be able to see it. Of course, I feel it. I feel the impacts of it, but I can see physical evidence of it with the mucus that I'm releasing. And it's been going on for 2 years. I've taken to to count 1,500 pictures over the past 2 years. So that averages to about two pictures per day of this mucus. After this session, within about a day's period of time, I have, and I'll share them here. I I released 10 times. I have 10 pictures here to show over that following day, and they're not, there a few of them are bloody and gross, and they look like they have some good gunk in them that's being released. But it's just so nice to see this as a direct result of going through these emotions. And I certainly feel it, even without seeing the mucus. I know how impactful it is. I feel it in my body. I feel it in just in how I accept myself and how peaceful I am afterwards. So that doesn't mean I'm not gonna, take a step back and fall into that fear again. I certainly am, and I'm ready for that. But it's just wonderful to experience this. So if anybody who's listening who hasn't really gotten into this type of spiritual work yet and emotional work, please give it a try. It'll be you'll be amazed with what comes up once you start diving deep into that. So I think that's really all I wanted to say. Like I said, I am starting this fast. I am going to try to be, I don't know if strict is the right word, but I am going to kind of not just fast with food. It's just going to be a pure water only fast, but I'm going to try to also just kind of eliminate any social media, not even watch a second of anything. The only thing I'll do is post this video, of course, but then outside of that, I'm not going to get on any social media. I'm going to honestly try to make it the most boring and dreadful 11 days that I could possibly imagine. Because that honestly that's the biggest struggle for fast for me. It's not necessarily the food. I mean, it's certainly hard not eating, of course, but it's the boredom that comes with it. And eating is kind of a fun activity. I enjoy cooking as well, so that takes up time, and it's an event, right? But eliminating that altogether just frees up time, and your mind is like, okay, what do I do here? And so I'm not gonna resort to distractions. In the past, I've always just given myself the excuse to just kind of lay in bed and watch TV, watch YouTube, things like that. But I'm gonna try to, or not try, I am going to eliminate that altogether and really, I'll certainly read, definitely get into art. And that's the other thing with the Kundalini session. It opened up my sacral chakra specifically during that session that I felt big time during that. And I've had this huge block with getting back into drawing, and that session really opened me up. So I'm excited to draw during this fast and really step into that. So, but I'll share all those details after the fast is done. But I think that's it. Thanks for listening. See ya.